with the right hand.
He clips it behind the head. That's it.
Right? So we're gonna work on the cross. Left hand from southpaw, obviously, but the cross. Your backhand straight. How do we make this thing hard? How do we make it safe? How do we throw it consistently without getting tired? The cross is dangerous because it exposes our center line. This is something you don't want to show to your opponent unless you're like really good Thai fighter. Most boxers are like really worried about punches, obviously. So they're gonna be more like this, okay? That shoulder is gonna be in front, back shoulder is gonna be in back. That also makes my backhand way stronger and more powerful than my front hand. What do we get power from? Movement, okay? Without movement, there can be no power. So if I put my shoulder in the back, there's gonna be more movement available to get it to the front, which we can derive power from. We have that shoulder in the back, we've got our backhand on our face, okay? Don't pull your hand back, okay? Anytime you do this, you just get hit with left hook. You wanna have both hands up. We're starting our weight back. If I wanna throw a real full power, full range right hand, I don't wanna start up here, I wanna start back here, like this. I crunch a little bit to this side, I load the weight on my back toe. Okay, so we're not throwing teeps today. We're not working in this Thai stance. We're working on the right hand. So the foot is gonna be at the angle of a sprinter, like so. I don't like to do it like this. I like to do it like this, way faster to get it into action. Okay, so weight is being carried over that back leg on the toe. I'm gonna begin by springing my ankle, okay, which is gonna cause my leg to rotate like so. Now, my core is on, okay? I'm not fighting like this with my stomach muscles off. I'm flexing my core, okay? And I'm rotating my hips slightly under, okay? Makes my body shorter, okay, like that. And it keeps this on. So then when I move this, this moves. That helps me. Weight is over here. I'm turning everything like that. I like to try to get a straight line in between my shoulders towards that shot. That allows me to use the width of my shoulders as length and more motion, more power to a point, because after that, I start getting off balance. And if I'm not balanced, very difficult to be powerful. I'm starting my rotation in the back. We're just talking about the body first. We'll worry about the arm later. Starting my weight in the back, I'm ripping it forward, rotating into my front heel. A lot of the time, people, when they throw right the cross, okay, they do it like that. And then they fall over or get countered, okay? We wanna make sure the weight is being caught there, okay, by the front heel, right? This is pretty easy to understand if you know anything about the physiology of lifting weights, for instance. If you're gonna squat or do a lunge, for instance, a lunge is probably a better way to explain this. If I'm gonna lunge, I don't wanna lunge like this. This is really bad, right? Try to do that with a lot of weight, it's gonna be hard. I wanna lunge like that, where my weight is directly going into that heel. Okay, so when I throw my cross, boom, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna put my weight directly into that heel. That allows my glute to catch me and not get me off balance where I fall over and get caught. So we're starting the weight in the back toe, we're catching it in the front heel. Our back shoulder is going into the front, boom, like that. Boom. Boom. Okay, and it's good to practice that by itself, right? Without having to worry about the arms. As soon as you start using your arm, that's what you're thinking of. Okay, we want to make sure that we're good with our body. Now, core has to be on the whole time, okay? Rotating to there. What do the hands do? The wider my strike, the easier it is to see. If I'm punching like this, as soon as my elbow goes out like that, the guy's like, oh, that arm's coming, right? Also, it leaves me somewhat vulnerable. So I like to keep my elbow pointing down, 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 down. Then right before the strike impacts, I bring it up, okay? And I twist that hand in, which gives it that snap, like that. Bang, bang. Okay, I don't want to do that early, okay? Because now there's no snap. And it's easy to see, right? You can just see it on the screen. As soon as I do this, you can read it. But if I'm punching like that, it's just a hand coming at you. It's not all this elbow and all this other stuff that you can see. Okay, so rotating from here, back toe is facing the same direction as the front toe. Bringing it out, elbow is down, 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 and up. Okay, right at the end, I'm twisting it up. Usually my hand doesn't actually hit like this. It'll land there, but that's what I'm trying to do. Boom. Okay, now, what part of our hand hits the person? That's important. I always see people do this, especially when they're first starting. Okay, they want to punch like that. Okay, their wrist is like that. If you punch like this, it's going to be real bad for you and not very bad for your opponent. This hitting somebody doesn't really hurt. That's not very good for you and not bad for them. Okay, we want this. Okay, we want this line to be straight and we're going to pull that back. So if you can see my knuckle, okay, I'm not doing this where that finger is sticking out past that. Okay, I'm gonna bring this down so that line is straight. That helps me. I even pull this back though. I'm trying to pull this knuckle back that way to make this sharper and make sure this part impacts the person, not this part, okay, like that. Now, I personally do not flex and squeeze my whole hand. I feel like it activates my forearm and makes my arm very tight. I focus on these two fingers. That's what I'm hitting with, is this knuckle. So this part is gonna be very tense. This part is not gonna be very tense. That might scare some people because they're like, oh, what if you hit your pinky? Don't hit your damn pinky, be accurate. I'm squeezing these like really tight and these much less so. Okay, that will use less of my muscle and allow my arm to be much more loose, like a whip. Because this is something that's really difficult to do and it takes a long, long time to train, is to keep your arm loose. You don't want your arm to be like flexing and squeezing and okay? It's like pushing through an opponent. It might move them. You might hit the person and they fly back 10 feet, but they just got pushed around. They didn't actually get hurt. If you hit somebody properly, it feels like you didn't really do anything, and then they drop. They just crumple onto the ground, right? Like they got shot with a gun. That's a real shot, okay? You don't want the one that moves them around. You just want the one that turns them off, okay? And a lot of times, what that is the looseness of your arm, okay? So this has to be tense, this has to be tense, this has to be tense. That whole line needs to be tense. This is what's giving you power. Your arm does not need to be tense. If your arm is tense, the power will not go through it, okay? You will not be able to transfer that energy, okay? You want the arm to be loose. You know, Conor McGregor does this weird thing, walks around like that. Why does he do that? I think he does that to keep his arms loose. If you see me before a fight, I do a similar thing, right? I'm doing that, or I'm like bouncing, and my arms are just kind of like flailing all over the place. Okay, I'm just removing the tension from my arms. Okay, I want them to be like noodles. Your arm should be like a chain, something a little stronger than a noodle, but like a chain with like a rock on it. Okay, now it's not fully squeezed, otherwise that chain will not be a chain, right? It'll be like a metal bar. We want this to be strong and this to be loose and this to be strong. We want that arm to whip in. We don't want to go like that. Okay, so many people focus on the retrieval of the punch that they never actually deliver that power. Okay, so we want it to go from here instead of this, where I'm really flexing and pushing my hand in. I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be loose. I'm trying to remove the tension from my arm, okay? Keep the tension in my body and keep the tension in those two knuckles. But this is loose. Okay, and as you can see, I don't pull it back immediately. I see this a lot, okay, especially when people are in their first few years. They're really focused on defense, which is good. Obviously, we need to focus on defense. But if you're pulling all the energy out, If you're so worried about getting your hand back to the face that you don't allow for the time that it takes to transfer that weight into the person, you're throwing things that could be knockouts, but you don't get the knockout. You don't get the full effect because you're pulling all the energy out. This is something that's kind of hard to figure out, but here's how I think about it. From here to here, there's water in your arm. Your arm has a whole bunch of water in it, right? Now, that water, that's the energy that we want to travel into the bag. So think about this. When you're throwing that punch, don't start pulling your arm back until all of that water, maybe not that much, but like this much. All of that water is into the bag. So if I went like this, as I'm pulling it back, some of that water would have spilled out of my hand and gone onto the floor. Okay, keep your imaginations on for this. If I throw it like this, all that water was into the bag before I start pulling my hand back. That doesn't mean my hand doesn't come back to my face. It does, right? Let's watch again. It goes in and then it comes back. But there's a really, really small pause where I'm not, as soon as I'm contacting, starting to remove my hand. I'm pulling my energy out. I want everything to go in. Bang! And then I start firing the muscles to retract. If I start firing those muscles too early, then the power never goes in. I want to deliver it. Boom! And then bring it back to my face. That's something that takes a lot of practice. It also helps if your arms are already somewhat loose, which if you're like the type of guy that's like a grappler and you have really good chokes and your body lock is crazy, you're probably really strong statically, but that can be very difficult if you're trying to make something loose, right? If you're really flexible, now it's probably easier for you to be loose, right? But with everybody's able to do this. It's just coordination. Try to like move your arms as like loose as you can, right? So you're like, there's a bunch of ways you can do this. Here's a weird way that I like to do it. I imagine that my arms are chains that are attached to this box. When I move the box, the chain moves, but I don't control it. I don't actively turn on the muscles that would control my arm. I'm here, and then I move. I let my arms do whatever, and then I move back. And as you can see, I'm not controlling my arms. They're acting as they would if I just didn't have any control over them whatsoever. And this is the type of tension, or lack thereof, that we're attempting to achieve. And then whenever I stop, right, they kind of keep moving. They flip around, they move around, and then they settle. Just because what's controlling them? Gravity. Okay, so we're trying to get our torso strong, legs strong, full rotation. Bang! All of that tense. This loose, right? Loose. This tense. Weights on the back leg. Hand is up. Arm is loose. Bring it back. Bring it back. Okay, so that's a lot to work on. But the more you try to work on all of these keys, the better that cross is gonna get, okay? And if you don't have a good cross, it can be really difficult to keep people away from you, okay? It's one of the best weapons we can use to keep distance and gives people a real problem if they move forward aggressively. Okay, if you guys want to see anything else, always drop a comment. If you like us, drop a like or hit that sub button, notification button, get that content. All right, people, peace out.